pretty good.
And actually, if you could do me a favor and get that running on low, and she's going to be howling to get out the whole time. Is that on 3 or is that on 1?
On 1.
Okay. Let's see if I can like fix my hair here too.
She just came in, so.
Okay.
She's howling out.
Okay, looks like we have a few people tuned in. Hot in here. How are you guys? Hope everybody's doing well. If you can let Paul know if you can hear me okay, that would be helpful.
Must have heard the cat comment because we got a meow.
Yeah.
Hi, Linda.
They know when we're about to go live.
Jill said that they can hear us and that that's a great color on you.
Oh, thank you. Okay. So, I'm trying to, like, fix my hair before we get started here. It's definitely making me nuts. Okay. So, while we wait for a few people to tune in, I do want to talk about some of the upcoming, hi mama, some of the upcoming free mini classes that we have going on. For those of you that are new here, I started doing 1 free mini class per week when the quarantine began. Sometimes we do 2. And Paul recently took them and compiled them together on the playlist. So if you click the playlist button, you can go back and you can see about 20 other classes. So some of the ones that are going to be coming up, we have Empaths and the Pandemic. This is going to be Thursday, September 17th at 9 p.m. And that's focused on a lot of the really disruptive, anxiety-induced and depressive feelings that empaths have been having since the pandemic began. And you may have noticed that there was an increase with it after George Floyd and, the Blake situation, a lot of racial injustice. Things are really heating up. And as that happens, empaths are becoming more sensitive. They are also moving up the 4 different levels with their empathic ability. A lot of empaths are also seeing apocalyptic visions of potential end times, or they're not sure if there's a war coming. A lot of disruptive sleep patterns and other things. Now, other empaths are doing great. So if you're the kind of person who had depression or you had an anxiety disorder, and with the quarantine, it just disappeared, we're also going to be talking about that. So Empaths and the Pandemic. That's Thursday, September 17th. Is that our next upcoming one?
Yeah.
Okay. And then we have September 20th, Intro to Numerology. Then we have Speak Up, Your Fear of Speaking Out on Tuesday, October 6th. I do want to say, too, for those of you that are interested in the Psychic Mediumship course, registration is now open. The class begins October 7th, and it is limited seating, even though it's online, for Pathway 2. Pathway 1 is video download. You can do that anytime, but if you were planning to register, you're going to want to do that soon. All right. We doing well over here?
Yeah, everybody's very happy to be here. Interested in this topic, that's for sure.
All right, well, I'm happy to hear that. All right, let's go ahead and do an intro here. So welcome, everyone. I'm Ivy Rivera. I'm a psychic medium and a Taino Arawak. I run a school called the Ivy League Psychic Academy, where we train people in everything from psychic mediumship development to tarot to Reiki to astrology to numerology. You name it, we do it. So if you want to check out a full list of classes or you want to book me for a virtual party or a reading, you can go to ivyriverapsychicmedium.com. that is in the description bar above. Paul, my adorable producer, is here with us tonight taking your questions. How are you, Paul?
Very lovely, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. So if you have questions or comments, please do interact here on the feed. If it fits in with what I'm talking about today, Paul will be just sort of interjecting with that. And if they don't fit in with the topic that I'm on, we will be taking those questions and comments at the end. Okay? So feel free to get started. Today's free mini class is part of the quarantine series, is called Our Fear of Dying. So if you guys are interested in donating back to the Academy for these free mini classes, you could do that at that website link above. We do appreciate everyone who has been giving donations. Our fear of dying, you know, when Spirit came to me and said, this is something you need to talk about, it's getting a little out of hand, people are thinking about it more than they normally have to, and it's not going very well. I thought, I don't know that anyone will tune in for that. And like always, Spirit said, that's not the point. Okay, so here we are. And what I decided to do to get a better grasp on what people's fears really are is just to go onto social media and post about it. So I went and I said, you know, what are the most common fears out there that you guys have? And from everything I had previously known about, from everything I had seen from clients, from these posts, it all really breaks down to about 4 things. So if you have other things that worry you, by all means, I am very interested in hearing. But it really comes down to this. Number 1, I'm afraid to die because I will not be here to protect or to take care of the people that I love, especially my children. In conjunction with that, people are also afraid to die because they think they may not see their children and their loved ones ever again. Number 2, I'm afraid to die because I may not have finished the work that I came to Earth to do, or I would not have accomplished everything I wanted to. Number 3, I'm afraid of the pain during the death process, and I pulled these together. I don't want to die alone. And number 4, I'm afraid to die because this may be it. This is all there is. There is no afterlife, and everything will just go dark and end for me. I will end. All right, so again, you have more? Post them. Paul will be taking them and letting me know. I want to break these down individually into different ways that I cope, and I want to give you remedies that I know are true based on what Spirit shows me from the afterlife and from alternate dimensions, things that I know are real. So nothing Spirit wants me to talk about today is really just my opinion or my interpretation. I don't talk about things in a theoretical way. If I know it, then I will say it. If I don't, I'm just going to probably not bother, okay? So, in regards to, I will not be here to protect, to love, and to take care of my children, my loved ones. I think something really important for us to pay attention to and to get more in touch with reality on is that our kids, our loved ones, are not extensions of ourself. They come, the lights are, like the cat's going crazy. She's attacking the lights, she's attacking, come here, mama. Come here. Okay, so we need to be realistic in confronting death, that everyone is separate from us. Even though it doesn't feel that way, it's true. And just as we don't want to be with our children or our lovers, our family, we don't want to be helicoptering over them all the time, sort of smothering them and controlling and crossing boundaries. The same way that we don't want to do that, or hopefully you know better than to do that, we can apply that same reasoning to death. When someone is ready to die that we love, we don't want to hold on to them. We don't want to suffocate them and make them feel guilty about leaving for our own sense of comfort. And when it's our time to go, we don't want to clutch to life and illness or whatever the condition is of our body so that we can be with everybody else. We need to let go of the neediness. We need to be more independent. And we need to let go of that ego, which is all about fear and control. Okay? Let go. Faith and love instead. So if you work on this every day in other areas of your life, it will get easier when we come to a place we have to deal with an actual death. I would also say this for number 2. I'm afraid to die because my work here on earth won't be done, or I would not have accomplished the things that I was supposed to or that I wanted to. Well, I offer something called a life contract reading. If you've ever gotten an astrology chart, my life contract readings match astrology charts. There are many ways that you can find out what you came to Earth to do. Mostly just by following your intuition and your higher mind, and by paying attention and being honest about what it is that you feel passionate about, what you think your purpose is. Now, most people are not living within that purpose. And when that happens, we do have an accumulation of missed deadlines. Those deadlines would show up in astrology, they would show up in a life contract. Everything that needs to be accomplished is on a deadline. Not all of those can be made up later on. So if there is work or anything that you felt passionately you wanted to do, and you don't finish it, it will be flipped and turned over into your next life when you reincarnate. It's unfinished business. Now, we don't want to have spillover work from previous lives. We don't want to have a to-do list a mile long that we're constantly catching up on. Think of how that feels when you're at work, or if you have kids, you're running a household, whatever it is. That nagging feeling of more. If you are one of those people that feels like you always have this dark looming cloud and there's more that you're supposed to do and you're always behind, you may want to take a good look at your life contract and make sure that you are spending your time wisely, that you are putting your energy only into the things that you came to Earth to put your energy into. You could be wasting time and you could be missing deadlines. However, you know what? You don't do it, you reincarnate, you do it over again. Okay, so that's not that big of a deal. Number 3. Well, the pain and the fear of dying alone. I'm with you. I pass out if I get a paper cut. Literally. Not comfortable with this one at all. Dying alone, that's fine. Okay, let's talk about that one first. That might be easier for me. So the fear of dying alone. You came here alone. Yes, you have a mother. Yes, you have parents. Yes, there were doctors there or whatever happened. Yes, granted, but technically, once that cord is cut, you came here alone. You are independent. You will come alone. You will go alone. Now, what's interesting about the passing process, from everything these spirits have shown me, the deceased have shown me, is that you're really not alone any more than you are when you come into the earth, okay? So think of that. You have your mother, okay? You're in the belly, and once that cord is cut, now you're on your own. Okay, fine. It's sort of the same way exiting. It's like you're on your own, and then ta-da! As soon as you cross over that line, everyone's there waiting for you. Your guides are waiting, your angels are waiting, your ancestors are waiting, your deceased loved ones are waiting. Everybody's right there. So you don't really die alone. You just go through that initial phase alone. And that really is just the body letting go of the spirit, or you could say the spirit exiting the body. Okay, I agree that the pain is an uncomfortable thought, a torturous thought even, but I think that finding ways to deal with pain in your everyday life is a good technique to use for when that day comes. I also think that it's best to really kind of put that out of your mind as much as you can, because you don't know that you're going to be in a lot of pain. The pain that comes from thinking about it all the time may be far worse than what your actual death process is ever going to be. In my case, I could almost put money on that. So if you were to pass away in your sleep, or if it were quick in any way, how much time did you waste thinking about that, being fearful of that? And we can't allow a spirit of fear to build up in our body. It makes us sick. It causes problems. We don't want to create a self-fulfilling prophecy. So find ways to deal with pain in your everyday life. Things like visualizations, or, I like to inhale and then exhale the pain out. Learn healing techniques like Reiki. Learn how to add colors to areas of pain, or do psychic surgery for yourself, for others. Get into the healing arts to help you to cope with things like that. Number 4, there's no afterlife. This is it, and that's really why I'm afraid to die. Okay, well, there is an afterlife. That's a guarantee, or I would just have been talking crazy my entire life, and all the things that I say, how are people proving this all the time? How do I know this? Well, what happens when we pass is we have 2 options. You are either going to choose, and you do choose. It is up to you. It is your free will to choose. You will either cross over into the light. A lot of people think of this as heaven, okay? Or you will choose to stay connected to the earth, earthbound, and either way, your life is going to continue. If you cross into the light, it will continue in a more positive way, by far. Crossing into the light is very much like a food source. Humans are energy. Humans need to plug in and connect to energy. And the light provides that. Staying earthbound, on the other hand, is potentially negative and toxic and dangerous. You don't have protection, but a lot of people choose that because they're not ready to let go yet. Here's the good news. Even if somebody does choose to be earthbound, they can cross into the light when they're ready. The rules of the light go something like this. You can enter here if you're ready to let go of your ego, your anger, your fear. You are willing to grow, and you're willing to help and assist others. Those that aren't won't. And that's not your problem. Okay, that's up to them. So we can really look at humans while they're alive, and we can say, this is a pretty perfect reflection of the afterlife. That would be accurate. There are some people that are dark and full of hate, and they are sick, and they have mental problems, and they make terrible decisions. Those will be the wandering ghosts that are earthbound afterward, unless they go through a revolution of change, and they have that option. But then you see other people who have a growth mindset. They care about community. Okay, they care about their well-being, the well-being of others. They're connected to spirit. They're in touch with their intuition, the right side of their brain. They know there's something more going on here. They're going to cross even easier. So it's not, is there an afterlife? It's which afterlife are you going to choose? But I guarantee there's plenty going on there. I do just want to touch on a couple things before we start taking any questions or comments here. Do we have some coming in?
Some comments.
Okay. So I do want to say that it's important that we understand at any age we can pass away, even a child. And that is not a horrible mistake, or why did God do this to me, or why did this thing happen, or we shouldn't carry survivor's guilt. We all came with life contracts. Within that life contract is a graduating point. Now, if we were to look at some forms of astrology, we would see what I call death points. Most of these are negotiable. So you do have multiple times throughout your life where you can pass away. But we tend to renegotiate and go as far as we can into old age. Now, if a child, for example, came with a life contract and they decided that they wanted to touch many lives in a really powerful way as quickly as they could, and they wanted to show these people healing, they may have chosen something like a cancerous condition. Or they may choose to pass away young to be part of accomplishing that task. And that's okay. That's what they signed on to. So we want to really look at our passing and the passing of those around us, even though it hurts, as a graduation. Often what happens is that somebody finishes what is within their life contract, their work, and the minute they do, they get to go. And that's where it can really look unexpected. It could look like an accident. That was no accident. They finished. There's no point in staying here if you're finished. Okay. I also wanted to talk a little bit about understanding that paranormal TV, paranormal videos and all of these shows that you see, that's not an accurate reflection on what goes on in the light. A lot of what you're seeing there is toxicity, it's negativity, it is these earthbound spirits who have chosen not to evolve. Remember, they don't have the protection of the light, they don't have the food source of the light. That's not what your afterlife is going to look like. You have choices, as do they. So don't use that as a gauge. Okay. Please also don't hold your loved ones down when it's their time to go. Tell them that it's okay for them to go. Sometimes the best healing for a spirit, for a person, for an animal, is to pass away. And you don't want to be the anchor that keeps them here suffering, because people will stay if they are afraid that you're not going to be okay. Mothers especially, grandparents especially. If someone has an excessively long dying process, it could be that no one is willing to whisper in their ear, it's okay for you to go. I am here with you. We love you, but we can take care of ourselves. It's okay for you to go. We want you to go. Okay? We have another free mini class up here called Death Coaching, don't we?
Yep.
So we have Death Coaching up here, and then we have a full Death Coaching class that I've only offered to my psychic mediumship students in the past. But we're going to open this up to the general public, so you can purchase just that class. I think that's going up in like 3 weeks. Paul has to edit it. I don't know. So it could be more like a month. But you can get the full course. Not that you're not quick, but I make a lot of, there are cats and bugs and nonsense, right?
That guy.
So after it's polished up, we'll be putting that up on the website also. So Death Coaching may be just the thing for you, but there is a free mini class on it here if you want to know more about that process. And included in with that class is a ton on mediumship. If you are so afraid of the death process, or whether or not there's an afterlife, or how are we going to stay in communication if I die, or if they die, how will we keep talking? Learn mediumship. Join us here at the Academy and learn the lost language. This is not a gift. This is an ability that everybody has. It's a language we used to know that was stripped from us. Okay? So once you know it, there's no way to unknow it. You can communicate with them just like we're communicating now, but it does take some effort. You do need to learn that is, in fact, a whole new system of communication. Okay, so those are a couple key things I wanted to talk about today. Do we have questions or comments here?
Mariah had mentioned that number 3 and 4 were true, especially number 3, and she was getting anxiety watching this. So hopefully that calmed down. That was a few minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to put in my own point that I feel that, speaking of mediumship, that any fear I had really went out the window once I took the class and started doing mediumship. It's like really took all the worry of it like right out of there. So
I like that. Yeah, because there are no more unknowns. You know, people will come and ask me, well, how do you know this? Well, how do you know this? Well, how do you know? What do you think of this? Do you think this happens? Do you think that happens? And it's like, it's not even my opinion anymore. These are just facts. These are things that I see. These are things that I hear. These are things that the spirits tell me. I have no reason, to live in a world full of question and mystery. It's just what it is. And it looks a lot like life, only without the trauma, which is nice.
Jill asks, do people who pass because of suicide have a different experience in the afterlife? Some religions teach that they instantly reincarnate.
No. So what happens with quick passings, whether it be suicide, it could be an overdose, it could be someone getting shot in an accident, murder, anything. Even if people get sick and they pass a lot faster than the average person, and there's not a proper goodbye. These have traditionally been considered, which is a myth, to be unfortunate passings that lead to earthbound spirits. And that is not at all the case. And they don't get chucked into reincarnation any faster than the rest of us do. So just because you pass quickly doesn't mean that you're disrespected in the process in some way. And just because you were to choose your own passing doesn't mean that you're going to get punished in some way. It ultimately comes down to this. Upon your passing, you will be able to choose. And a lot of people who do commit suicide have thought about this a great deal more than anyone else. So they're actually very ready to cross into the light. They're looking for that relief, that freedom, that connection. So they will choose to cross into the light, and then they will have an option as to when they want to get out that old life contract, take a look at past life unfinished business, take a look at what they need to accomplish in this life, piece it together, and reincarnate. At that point, they would choose their parents and try to get in as quickly as they can. Yeah.
We have a comment from Linda who says that she's not afraid of dying. She's afraid of coming back. Being in human form has never been comfortable for her. LOL. She wants to be a mermaid.
Yeah.
We have plenty of mermaids.
There you go. Well, maybe you'll take a mermaid break, when you get to the other side. And I think it's very possible, too, that, if you're really starting to feel that level of discomfort, it can also signify that you're near the end of your life process. So, you may not either need to reincarnate and come back to Earth again, or you maybe just have a few tasks you need to finish up. If you don't, of course, you'll have to. But that, to me, sometimes seems like we're really at the tail end, or when we see people that are almost too good to be true, or they seem like earth angels, or they seem to really just be here of service to others. That could be their last life, or you could be darn close to the end of that process, and then you evolve into something else.
We have one from A. Black. Says that I have been by numerous people's sides who have passed away due to my job and from my personal life. Do they separate from the physical body and stand by waiting for it to stop before crossing over?
Say that last part again.
Do they stand by waiting for it to stop before crossing over?
Do they stand by waiting for what to
out
stop?
of
The body?
The body.
I think that's not really the case, because we have, I call it playing both sides of the fence. We have this ability when we have dementia, if we're in a coma, if we have severe intellectual disabilities, Alzheimer's, okay? So, or if someone has been sick for a while, or even if they just get quite up there in age, they play both sides of the fence. And what that means is that they're crossing over and spending a great deal of time on the other side, often more so than they are here. So even though the body is technically alive, they're really over there more. And so I think that they can cross, but they would typically continue to communicate and play both sides of the fence that entire process. So it's not uncommon to have them communicate with you from spirit, even though they're technically alive. And so you would think that they passed, and they haven't. In the death coaching free mini class, I actually talk about 2 or 3 different hands-on experiences where that I use as examples of how this can look. And after the passing of the body, it's not necessarily a major change. You will still typically hear from them pretty frequently, almost like they're doing their rounds or they're saying goodbye. They tend to stick around for the ceremony and things like this. And then approximately 5 to 6 months later, the communication starts to change. It gets a little bit more detached and turns more into the language that I speak of here at the Psychic Mediumship course. And it will stay that way after that. So, yeah.
The Silly Rabbit said that this is really valuable information to know, and she's learning a lot from it. And then asks about animals and pets passing away. What happens to them? What is their process when they pass?
Same thing. You know, you may even, if it's your dog, your cat, you may even be part of their process, which is really sweet. You're only allowed to go so far. So here's a great example. When my dog was passing, I was able to lead her. I thought I was dreaming. She was passing next to me. I didn't fully understand that. But I was able to help her scoot. She was a little poodle Bichon mix. She was very short legs. I was helping her up a mountain. And at the top of the mountain, they said, "You can't come any further." And they took her. So it was interesting that I passed her off. It's really the same thing. When we talk about death coaching, we talk about death doulas, we talk about people in hospice, right? Sort of the same thing. We're helping them to go, but we can't, for that part of the process, you know, then that cord is sort of cut in that way. But they will start usually immediately after, or even during the death process, the same as humans, communicating back and forth, doing that, playing both sides of the fence. And the communication never has to stop with them. It could be anything from hearing their nails on the floor, the clickety-clack, to the drinking out of the water bowl, to them slopping around their food, you know, to them jumping up on your bed. You'll feel them. One of the most common things I see after an animal passes, because animals are big healers in the universe, so they tend to continue on with that work on the other side. You will often feel them sitting on a part of your body if you have an illness there, or some kind of an injury, or if you have like anxiety or heartache or something, they might come and try to lay by your head. So when you're relaxing, you will feel pressure or like a tingling. Yep. Same thing. We all just sort of recycle back and figure out what work we have to do next.
Jill says thank you. She was curious about with suicide rates rising. And Linda said that that's good to hear about being a mermaid. Thanks, XXO. And A Black said thank you. That's very interesting. She's often wondered about that.
Good. Okay. I do want to just say this. When you start to worry about the death process, one of the great things that you can do to counteract any of those fears is to look at life realistically. Look at the pressure that we have on us all the time. We have the clock running all the time, putting constraints on us. Think of the disrespect, the evil, the heartache, the pain that some people in the world cause others. Think of hunger, think of disease, think of the real condition of the human body and how that is on a time clock and can be so unfortunate. Okay, think of what we have to go through just to eat, the hustle for the daily buck. If you take a serious look at life, you can honestly say, this is hard, this is painful, and this is about work. This is about lessons. I want to get in here, get it over with, and get back out and get on to more growth and expansion, which is not really available here in a lot of ways, okay? The earth is a classroom for very specific things, and it comes with an intense level of discomfort. Always having to know at all times, no matter what you built, it's going to be washed away. No matter who you love, there's going to be a divide there. So don't be afraid of having that freedom and moving on to something greater. But the love that we all feel for each other, that's never going to go. Okay? Nor does the communication. All right, guys, hope to see you at class. That would be excellent for you to learn this language. Thank you, Polly.
You're very welcome.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning in.